get into, and we could start wherever, but I see a lot of people with the Brock Montana and the Joe Montana comparisons with Brock Purdy. I thought a lot of that game on Sunday. Yeah, there were some Joe elements to it, but those scrambles reminded me so much of Steve Young and the way he finished those runs. Steve Young didn't like to slide. Remember that was a big thing? Steve Young would fall head first. He would take on a hit. He would take a pile on. You think about some of those classic touchdown runs. There's a lot more Steve Young to those scrambles with Brock Purdy than Joe Montana, but I thought the footwork was elegant, especially on that final drive, the championship drive, in which they go 7 plays, 70 yards to ice the NFC title game and advance to the Super Bowl.
I think it's so unfair comparing him to the legends.
I don't like doing that.
I know.
But if we're going to do that, if the fans are going to do that, I'll play along. Okay. And I'll just say, you know what? I saw some elements of Steve. I saw some elements of Joe.
All right. Well, what I saw, at least in the first couple of drives, because I'm going through it, and let's start with some of the bad, right? Because I do want to get into all of the good. But starting with some of the bad, like the first couple of drives.
Are you sure people want to start their morning off with some of the bad? I'm kidding. Okay.
You tell me.
You continue.
It's okay. I just thought he was very hesitant. This was the second game in a row where it felt like that first read maybe wasn't there. Maybe he wasn't seeing the pocket well, or seeing the rush was coming into his face because there wasn't a big pocket. He didn't see the field well, and it felt like that first read got taken away, and he got just a little gun shy, a little hesitant early on. Now he settled in, and that's to his credit. And I thought that Deebo Samuel really helped things out in that second half. I thought CMC really helped things out. I think some of the easier throws, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't say it. Like, he made some good throws early on, but hesitant was the word that I kept coming back to. It felt like he was afraid to make a mistake. And then he did make the big interception. And then it was almost like, okay, now I'm just going to play ball. Like, I've already made the mistake.
Kind of like Jimmy Garoppolo, right? When Jimmy Garoppolo would throw a pick. Now, depending on which game you want to pick on, but most of the time when Jimmy threw a pick, he would get better after that interception. He would get the mistake out of the way. Shanahan would take the ball out of his hands, and then Jimmy would start to cook. Now, CMC, look, he's starting slow, and I mean, Brock Purdy was starting slow on, but I thought it was just a team-wide breakdown. I thought guys. Detroit was just all over them.
I
thought they were ahead of Kyle Shanahan early on in this football game by taking away that first read. Everybody knows the Niners love those slants. They love those drags. And Detroit zoned it up a couple times, even on the Brendan Ayuk touchdown to tie the football game up at 24-24.
I thought that was one of his best throws of the night,
One of his best throws of the night.
He kind of slid the pocket to the left.
Right.
I mean, that was a beautiful ability of using the feet like you're talking about to kind of move things.
However, I noticed, too, on the Detroit side of things, where C.J. Gardner-Johnson was late getting to his spot. And it felt like Eric Glenn had guys designated to their spots in that zone defense. Hey, I need you to guard this area. We see that a lot with the Baltimore Ravens, right? With that matchup zone. Hey, let's guard this patch of grass here. And at times, with Brock Purdy's feet and his eyes, he was able to manipulate that secondary, manipulate that defense, and just get them off their spots to where they are a second late, a half second late on some of those throws. And you saw that with Ayuk. I thought the championship drive, because I also want to get into Shanahan and his evolution as a play caller and as a head coach on finishing football games. That was a big talking point with Shanahan for so long. But back to Brock Purdy for a second. Look, it didn't start off pretty at all. He got wacky there. When he got the Niners back into the football game, there were some things, and you listen to Greg Olsen, who, by the way, was absolutely phenomenal. By the way, Romo, Olsen, give me Greg Olsen all day. I thought Romo was a little out of touch in that ASU championship game. I listened to it thoroughly last night, watching the second half back between the Ravens and
how good is
the Chiefs. Mahomes is good, but I'm like, Romo, you got to capture the moment here. Greg Olsen captured everything in that NFC title game and broke it all down well, but Purdy was breaking so many rules as a quarterback.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up, because to me, one of the plays that's going to get lost, and it's more of like a highlight play, but I don't think people understand the magnitude of the play. It's third down, and they're kind of in no man's land, and it's too deep to kick a field goal. They're down 2 touchdowns at the time, and they're down 17 points at the time, and he scrambles out to the left, and I don't think he's going to get a first down. And I don't think they're going to be able to hit a field goal from that far. No. They're like at the 42-3. Like, they're in a really tough spot.
First drive in the third quarter.
Yes. And it feels to me like
they're at the Detroit 35-yard line, 3rd and 4. So if you don't get a completion there, if you don't get any yards, it's a 52-yard kick.
After the guys already missed one earlier in the game, wide right. So I don't know. I thought that was a crucial play. And yes, it's a goofy, Juwan Jennings is one of the best catches of his career. It's a goofy play where he's rolling left. I thought he's going to run for the first down. He turns back around and does the cardinal sin of throwing back to the middle of the field, which you talked about. And just getting that drive to be extended gave them what I believe to be a much more comfortable field goal attempt, which to me was kind of like, okay, all right, we got some points on the board. Even though in my seats at the time I was like, God, I needed 7. Right. Yeah. They just needed points.
Well, Shanahan said that in his post-game locker room speech. It was like, boy, I thought we were going to get a touchdown. We got a field goal, and I thought, boy, this is going to be a little hard.
That's what I thought too, though. Didn't you?
And Shanahan told his team, well, to get the field goal there, it's like you had to get a stop. You had to get a stop, right? The defense is going to have to buck up and get a stop at some point. And that next possession where Detroit goes for it on 4th and 2, we didn't talk about the third down play. Now, the 49ers get the 3 points, right? They kind of calm the waters down. Yes. You're down 2 scores. I'm thinking to myself, boy, it would have been nice to have that Jake Moody field goal in the first half, but you don't. You're down 2 touchdowns. You're down 2 touchdowns. So Detroit's going for it. Now, I found this out, just kind of doing some research yesterday and watching the game back. Detroit, going into that football game, they were 20 of 25 on 4th downs in which it was 4th and 3 and less. Think about that. They converted 80% of their 4th downs when it was 4th and 3 or less. That's what they do.
But I want to pause right here because I've been thinking about this for literally 24 hours. We're not the Chicago Bears, and it's not Week 11. You know what I mean? Like, I get your point of view.
They did it against Kansas City. They do it against anybody. It's not just the Chicago Bears.
But this isn't just anybody. Like, I don't wear gym clothes to church.
You could say by the end of the season, Chicago Bears defense was better than the 49ers defense. You can say that.
The point that I'm getting at is that just because those data points are all there doesn't mean that you do that no matter what, and it's a hard, that's my biggest beef with analytics.
But that's what you... When you get to that point, and you see a lot of teams when they get to a championship point, and they get to a World Series, or they get to this championship series, they start switching up things that got them there. Do what you do that got you to that point. What got Detroit to that point, they were 20 and 25 on 4th and 3s or less. That's what they've been doing since Dan Campbell has arrived. And why stop the aggressiveness? And when you think about that 4th and 2, and we can get to the play itself, Josh Reynolds flat out dropped the pass.
Yeah, but Goff was pressured on that play.
But he threw a dime, though. You're going to face pressure. We're not going to have clean pockets at this stage. It hit Josh Reynolds in the head. You don't get the first down. Josh Reynolds dropped 2 massive third downs. But I want to go back to the 3rd down play. And this is where Detroit may have blew that sequence. The 3rd down play. It's 3rd and 4 at the Niners' 30-yard line.
Yeah, and they were running the ball.
They were averaging 7 yards a carry.
Totally agree.
They were running the ball. And 3rd and 4, we talked about this leading up to the football game. Detroit loves to throw it on first down. They threw it 60% of the time on first down to set up 2nd and manageable. 3rd manageable. That was one of my keys going into the game. Can you keep Detroit out of 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, 3rd and 4? And for the most part, you didn't do that. The Niners giving up yards left and right on first down. But 3rd and 4, they line up Amon-Ra St. Brown in the backfield. Now, David Montgomery was running hard. Jahmyr Gibbs at that point was running hard. And they line up Amon-Ra St. Brown in the backfield. And to me, that was a sign of Detroit just getting a little too cute, running your wide receiver in the backfield. Now, if that's David Montgomery on 3rd and 4, they headed the ball off and he got 2 yards. If it's David Montgomery, it's probably a first down.
I think that 3rd down play absolutely was terrible. And Fred Warner made a great play on that play.
Fred Warner made a great play. I thought Javon Kinlaw made a great play.
Yes.
But Fred Warner made an unbelievable play. But you're running that with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Which was a little...
With 3 wide. And then you had... I don't know if it was Gibbs or Montgomery out left.
Right.
And the other 2 wide receivers to the right. It was a very questionable call. I don't know, B. I hear you on that we did this all year. I just think there are certain situations that are just different. And that's the way I am. Like, when I watch Bumgarner come out of the bullpen in Game 7, it's Game 7. It's different. When I watch Mariano Rivera come out for a 5-out save, it's a playoff moment. It's different. It's not what we normally do throughout the regular season. When I see, the Warriors, for example, allowing Steph Curry, this is one of the things that drove me nuts, even though he's got a hurt knee, taking normal rest in Game 7 of 2016, where he's waiting till the 6.5-minute mark to check in, that was wrong. This is not a regular season game. I don't just do what I did all year. I get the mentality. I understand it. But I also believe there's a time and a place. We just disagree on this one.
The play was executed correctly. Goff foul pressure. he felt pressure, and he threw an absolute dime to Josh Reynolds. It hit Josh Reynolds in the hand. Can my receiver make a play and catch the pass? He flat out dropped it. Flat out dropped it. Now, on the flip side, Michael Basley, who was a kicker for the Detroit Lions, he only had 4 field goal attempts for the Lions. Obviously, their kicker,
which is crazy.
Their regular kicker was hurt. So, what was his name? Was it Blankenship? Who am I thinking about? Blankenship?
Yes, Blankenship.
So, Basley, 4 for 4 on the season. He only attempted 1 field goal for 40 yards on the season for the Detroit Lions. That's a 47-yarder if they do decide, hey, we're going to go for it. We're not going to go for it. Let's elect to kick the 3 and go up 3 possessions. All right. It's on the floor. What if he misses that? What if he misses that? You know what I'm saying? Like I hear you say, go kick, go kick, go kick. This guy had 1 kick over 40 yards at Levi Stadium. And again, you are 20 of 25 from 4th and 3 and
but this
less.
Isn't the regular season. This is the playoffs. This is the NFC Championship game.
Well, you guys told me when it was leading up to the Green Bay Packers, well, they lost to the New York Giants. And I'm like, well, this ain't the regular season. They're a better team.
I was wrong.
No, but it's not about you being wrong or right. It's about what a team's doing. This is what their coach should do.
But if that's your identity.
But I love what Jared Goff did. He said, you know what? This is what we do. We wanted to go for it. Reynolds is my guy on 3rd down. He's my guy on 2nd down. The guy flat out dropped the pass.
But see, this is the problem. Like, part of why they were on the road and not at home was this is what we do. We're going to be aggressive late in the game when they're playing the Dallas Cowboys, when they should have taken the tie, and they had 3 opportunities at the 1, and they kept throwing it, even though they got penalized.
Well, they got robbed for that. They should have won that football game. The referees blew that game.
We were all watching that game, and I said, take the points, go to overtime.
But they scored the 2-point conversion, and the guy, they said, well, he didn't report to the referee what he obviously did.
But that's what
happened. Was a blunder by the officials.
But then you have the opportunity to make an adjustment and take the points. See, this to me is ego. This is the same thing when I saw Sirianni go for 2 when it had nothing to do with points when they're playing Tampa Bay. It was, to me, just because that is your organizational philosophy doesn't mean it fits the moment. And I think this
I thought it fit that moment.
I don't know. Well, listen, but if you're going to be aggressive there, why are you running the ball on 2nd down before the end of half and calling a timeout? Like if you're going to stay aggressive all the time, then they should have gone for the aggressive gusto and thrown the ball into the end zone right before halftime, because taking the field goal right before halftime for Dan Campbell was a very weak-minded move in that situation. They're up 21-7. They get the field goal 24. I don't know. They didn't even try to be aggressive.
No, they did. No, Dan Campbell, they actually threw a screen pass there.
On the 3rd down.
On the 3rd down. They threw a screen pass there on the 3rd down, and they got to the 2.5-yard line. And Dan Campbell sat there long and hard and thought over and over and over. And you could tell it was late when he finally said, all right, let's kick the field goal, go up 3 scores before halftime, because I get into that situation. You don't get the 4th down there. All of a sudden, the Niners go into the locker room, down 2 scores with big-time life going into the locker room. You kick the field goal there, you go up 17. You're like, all right, we're up 3 scores. I don't like the way we finished that half. And by the way, Jared Goff missed a wide-open Jahmyr Gibbs in the back of the end zone early in that sequence.
Throws.
He missed some big throws and go to that. So I get why Dan Campbell said, you know what? Let's end this game right here. I got a chance to put a stranglehold on the 49ers, and if the field goal presents itself later in the possession, let's do that. 4th and 2, we can agree to disagree. I know a lot of people disagree, but again, this is what Detroit does. They were 20 and 25 on 4th and 3s and less, and at that point, think about what they were doing. I had a bigger problem with them passing the ball personally. I would have just ran the ball because they were gashing the Niners at the line of scrimmage. They were averaging 7 yards a carry. At that point, the rushing yards tilted so far in Detroit's favor.
Dominant.
It was 168-45 at that point. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, they passed it. Not only did they pass it, Reynolds flat out dropped it. Your players at some point got to make a play.
No,
I thought the Lions put them in position. Campbell and Ben Johnson put their players in a position to succeed, and Detroit just didn't make plays in the second half.
No, well, that is undeniable. I don't know. Any play where you're going to get Goff to move his feet, you feel good as a defense. You're like, all right, we did something well, and on that play, they got him to move his feet. I'm with you on the run game. It took the Niners 4 possessions to make a play on the edges in the run game, Bonte. Gibson is still missing tackles on the outside right now. That is my number 1 takeaway watching the game back is what are they going to do to adjust on the edges in the run game? Gibson missed over. Now, he made a great strip play, and that's the play that everyone's going to remember, but missed tackle after missed tackle, and Oren Burks getting wiped out, and Chase Young, questionable effort across the board, and even Nick Bosa getting plastered by wide receivers. I want to know how they're going to fix this in the next 2 weeks. Because that is clearly a huge hole. When you watch that game back, why Detroit went away from the run is beyond me.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Beyond me.
And so the second fourth down that they attempted, down 27-24. Now that was just flat out dumb to me. And the Niners did a good job of disguising their defense on the play. They zoned up the underneath stuff.
The Greenlaw.
The drags. Yes. Warner Greenlaw, they zoned it up underneath, and they confused Jared Goff there underneath and they flushed him out to his right. They flushed him out of the pocket to where he had to run. There was a guy coming in on the left. I don't know if it was Amon-Ra St. Brown, who it was there on the drag. He had him initially, but he got flushed out to the right, throws an incompletion. At that moment, I had to try the field goal to at least tie the football game up. But Detroit has had erratic kicking all season long. They've had erratic kicking under Dan Campbell whatsoever. So that's on them. But that was the bad with the 49ers. There was a lot of bad there with the defense.